Jake Morrison walked through the long corridors of Kepler Station with heavy steps. The massive space station floated in neutral space between 12 different star systems. Each system belonged to a different alien race that made up the Galactic Council. Today would be another day of arguing and defending humanity's actions to creatures who seemed to hate everything humans did. The human ambassador wore his best formal suit, but it felt tight around his shoulders. He had been doing this job for 3 years now, and every day felt harder than the last. The aliens kept making new rules that seemed designed just to stop humans from growing and expanding. They acted like humanity was some kind of dangerous animal that needed to be kept in a cage. Jake entered the main council chamber, where representatives from 11 alien species waited for him. The room was huge with seats arranged in a circle. Each alien had their own special area designed for their particular needs. The Zalani needed cold temperatures, so their section had ice crystals growing on the walls. The Korthak reptiles required heat lamps that made their corner glow red. The ethereal collective did not have physical bodies, so they spoke through floating crystal formations that hummed with energy. Ambassador. Jake took his place at the human section, which looked plain and simple compared to the exotic alien areas. The other representatives stared at him with eyes that held no friendship. Some aliens had multiple eyes while others had none at all, but Jake could feel their hostile attention like a weight pressing down on him. Chancellor Zorvak of the Zalani species stood up first. His blue skin looked almost white under the cold lights of his section. Ice crystals formed in the air as he breathed and spoke in a voice that sounded like winter wind. The Council calls this session to address serious violations of galactic law by the human species. Earth has established military outposts in sectors designated as neutral space under the expansion accord signed 10 years ago. Jake started to stand, but the Chancellor held up a hand covered in frost. The human representative will remain silent until given permission to speak. The evidence against humanity is clear and undeniable. The Korthak military commander, General Vex, stepped forward on his powerful legs. His scales gleamed under the red heat lamps as he activated a holographic display. The images showed human ships and space stations in various star systems. Red warning markers highlighted weapon emplacements and defensive systems. These installations contain military hardware that exceeds Council regulations. Human weapons are designed for offensive operations, not defensive purposes, as they claim. More aliens began speaking one after another. The insect-like Vex swarm chittered accusations about human mining operations disrupting their trade routes. The plant-based Sylvan Collective rustled complaints about human terraforming changing atmospheric compositions on border worlds. Each species had something negative to say about human activities. Jake felt his anger growing, but he kept his face calm. These aliens had been expanding across the galaxy for thousands of years before humans even left their home planet. They had taken the best worlds and richest systems for themselves. Now they wanted to stop humans from finding new places to live and grow. They acted like humanity was being aggressive just for trying to survive and prosper. Finally, Chancellor Zorvak gestured for Jake to speak. The human ambassador stood slowly and looked around the circle of alien faces. The installations your evidence shows are defensive positions protecting human colonies from pirate attacks. In the past 6 months, raiders have hit 12 human settlements, killing thousands of civilians. These bases exist to protect innocent people, not to threaten anyone. General Vex slammed his clawed hand on his speaking platform. Pirates are not the Council's concern. Human expansion is. Your species builds military assets faster than any other member race. You colonize new worlds without proper Council approval. You develop weapons technology that could threaten galactic stability. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. Are you saying the Council cares more about stopping human growth than protecting human lives? The ethereal collective's crystals began glowing brighter as their collective voice filled the chamber. The sound was like music mixed with the ringing of bells. The younger races must learn patience and restraint. Humanity seeks to dominate rather than cooperate. This behavior threatens the peace that has existed for millennia. What peace? Jake asked. The peace where 11 species control everything and newcomers get whatever scraps are left? The peace where humans die from pirate raids because we are not allowed to defend ourselves properly? Chancellor Zorvak's eyes grew colder. The human representative will show proper respect or face consequences. The Council has reached a decision regarding humanity's violations. Earth must submit to immediate weapons inspections of all military installations. Human fleet size will be reduced by 60%. All expansion activities will halt until the Council grants specific permission for each new settlement. Jake stared at the alien leader. Around the circle, he saw 11 species nodding agreement with the Chancellor's words. Not one voice spoke in support of humanity. These creatures wanted to inspect human weapons while keeping their own military secrets. They wanted to cut human defenses while maintaining their own vast fleets. They wanted to stop human expansion while continuing to grab new territory for themselves. The vote will now commence, Chancellor Zorvac announced. All in favor of the resolution to restrict human military capabilities and expansion activities. One by one, the alien representatives voted yes. The Zilani voted yes. The Korthak voted yes. The Ethereal Collective voted yes. Every species except humanity supported the resolution that would cripple human civilization and leave Earth's colonies defenseless against attack. When the voting ended, Chancellor Zorvac looked directly at Jake. The resolution passes by a vote of 11 to 1. Humanity has 30 days to begin compliance with all restrictions. Council inspection teams will arrive at human installations within the week. Jake Morrison stood up slowly. The anger that had been building inside him for 3 years suddenly went cold and hard like metal. He looked around the circle of alien faces that showed satisfaction and smug superiority. These creatures thought they had just put humanity in its place. They believed humans would accept this humiliation and beg for mercy. Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out his diplomatic credentials. The small device contained his authority to speak for Earth and all human colonies. Without saying a word, he placed it on his speaking platform and stepped back. Earth withdraws from all Council proceedings effective immediately, Jake said in a voice that carried clearly through the large chamber. We will handle our own affairs from now on. He turned and walked toward the exit as alien voices erupted behind him in surprise and outrage. Jake did not look back or acknowledge their shouting. He left his credentials on the platform and walked out of the Council chamber for the last time. The aliens thought humanity was throwing a tantrum that would end when humans realized they could not survive without the Council's protection and guidance. They believed humans would come crawling back within weeks begging for forgiveness and acceptance. They were about to learn just how wrong they could be. Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense ship Colorado, watching the last human transport leave Kepler Station. 3 months had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the Council chambers, and every human in Council space was now coming home. The withdrawal was happening exactly as planned, with military precision and complete silence. Lisa had been commanding fleet operations for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this before. Usually when diplomatic relations broke down, there would be weeks of angry messages and threats flying back and forth. This time there was nothing but silence from Earth. The humans were simply leaving without explanation or argument. Her communication officer turned from his station with a puzzled expression. Admiral, we are receiving another message from the Zilani Chancellor requesting immediate talks with Earth leadership. This is the 47th message in 3 days. Lisa did not even look at the message content. Standard response only. Acknowledge receipt and file it with the others. The young officer looked confused. Should we not at least read what they are saying? They seem very concerned about something. Our orders are clear, Lisa replied. We acknowledge all Council communications, but we do not respond to their content. Earth is done talking to the Council about anything. Dr. Alan Ross was packing the last of his research equipment from the xenobiology lab on Titan Station. For 20 years, he had worked with alien scientists, studying different forms of life across the galaxy. The research had produced amazing discoveries that benefited all species. Now it was ending because the Council had pushed too hard. His assistant Jenny looked sadly at the empty lab. Doctor, this seems like such a waste. The Aquarian scientists were so close to solving the quantum drive efficiency problem. If we just stayed a few more weeks, we could finish the, project. Alan sealed the final storage container and marked it for transport to Earth. The Aquarians had 20 years to solve that problem before humans came along. If they were close to solving it, then they can finish the work themselves. We are taking all human research and data with us. 3 Aquarian scientists floated in their water tanks nearby. Their tentacles moved in patterns that Alan recognized as distress signals. They had been trying to convince him to stay for the past week. The water creatures had no concept of why humans would abandon beneficial cooperation over political disagreements. Dr. Ross looked at his former research partners one last time. The research data belongs to Earth now. If the Council wants access to human discoveries, they should have thought about that before trying to disarm and control us. Captain Nina Walsh commanded the evacuation of the joint research station orbiting Proxima Centauri. The facility had been a symbol of successful cooperation between humans and the Zilani species. Scientists from both races had worked together, developing new agricultural techniques that increased food production on dozens of worlds. The Zilani research team leader approached Nina as human workers dismantled equipment. His blue skin showed the stress patterns that indicated extreme anxiety. Captain Walsh, please reconsider this action. The food shortage on Kepler-7 could be solved with our joint research. People will go hungry if this project ends. Nina continued supervising the equipment removal without looking at the alien scientist. All joint operations are terminated by order of Earth Command. Please ensure your people vacate human sections of this facility within 72 hours. The Zilani scientist's voice became desperate. This is madness. Politics should not interfere with humanitarian work. The research we do here saves lives across many worlds. Then you should have considered that before your chancellor voted to disarm and inspect human colonies. Nina replied coldly. Earth provided the funding and most of the scientific knowledge for this project. Now Earth is taking it home. Back on Kepler Station, Chancellor Zorvac called an emergency council meeting. The other alien representatives gathered quickly because the situation was becoming more serious than anyone had expected. The humans were not just refusing to talk. They were completely disappearing from galactic civilization. General Vex of the Korthak displayed shipping data that showed the scope of human withdrawal. All human merchant vessels have stopped using Council trade routes. Human freight companies are canceling contracts worth billions of credits. 3 major shipping lanes are already experiencing delays because human carriers handled 60% of the cargo traffic. The ethereal collective's crystals hummed with concern. The economic disruption is spreading faster than predicted. Several member species are reporting supply shortages for goods that humans typically provided. Chancellor, Zorvac felt ice crystals forming around his breathing apparatus as stress affected his body temperature regulation. They are behaving like children throwing a tantrum. When they realize they cannot survive without Council protection and trade, they will return asking for forgiveness. Representative Clax of the Trilaxian Trade Federation spoke up nervously. Chancellor, I am not certain this is a temporary situation. The humans have recalled every diplomat, trader, and civilian from Council space. They are not acting angry or emotional. They are acting like they never want to see us again. Impossible, General Vex growled. No species can exist in isolation. They need our technology and our trade networks. Without Council support, their expansion will collapse. Dr. Morris Chen worked in his laboratory on Luna developing new propulsion systems for human ships. For years, he had shared his research with Council scientists who provided different perspectives and knowledge. Now he was working alone, but he was making faster progress than ever before. His research team had been instructed to focus only on human needs and human problems. Without the need to consider alien requirements or political sensitivities, they could design exactly what Earth needed. The new engines would be better than anything the Council species possessed. President Martha Collins addressed the Earth Assembly from the Capitol building in Geneva. The representatives from every human colony and settlement had gathered to hear her report on the withdrawal from Council space. The evacuation of all human personnel from Council territory is complete, she announced. We have successfully retrieved every citizen, every piece of equipment, and every byte of research data that belonged to humanity. Our people are safe and our assets are secure. Senator Bill Hayes stood up from his seat. Madam President, the Council has sent over 200 messages requesting negotiations. Should we not at least hear what they have to say? President Collins looked at the senator with cold eyes. The Council had their chance to treat humanity as equals. They chose instead to treat us as subjects who needed their permission to defend ourselves. They made their position clear when they voted to disarm our colonies and inspect our weapons. We have made our position equally clear. The President activated a display showing economic data from the past 3 months. Human colonies are achieving full self-sufficiency ahead of schedule. Our internal trade networks are handling all cargo that was previously carried by Council ships. Our research programs are advancing faster without alien interference. Representative Carroll from the Mars colony raised her hand. What if the Council offers to reverse their decision about weapons inspections and fleet reductions? The time for compromise has passed, President Collins replied. Earth no longer requires council approval for anything we do. We will defend our colonies as we see fit. We will expand to new worlds when we choose. We will develop whatever technology serves our purposes. The Assembly voted unanimously to support the complete separation from council authority. Humanity was now truly independent for the first time since joining galactic civilization. On Kepler Station, the alien representatives watched their civilization begin to fracture. The humans had been more than just another member species. They had become essential to keeping the galactic economy and research networks functioning. Without human participation, everything was starting to break down. But humanity was not coming back, and the council was finally beginning to understand that their threats and ultimatums had backfired completely. The species they had tried to control was now beyond their reach forever. Commander Ryan Phillips studied the star charts showing new shipping routes that avoided all council space completely. 6 months had passed since humanity withdrew from galactic politics, and Operation Silent Running was working better than anyone had expected. Human merchant ships now traveled through unexplored sectors and empty space to reach their destinations without encountering a single council vessel. The operation required longer travel times and more fuel, but Earth had planned for this. New refueling stations were being built in asteroid fields and around uninhabited planets. Human colonies were becoming completely self-sufficient, much faster than the original timeline had projected. Every day brought reports of successful independence from council trade networks. Ryan received a communication from Captain Tony, who commanded a freight convoy carrying agricultural products between human settlements. Commander, we just completed the Mars to Europa route without using any council shipping lanes. Travel time was only 18% longer than the old route through Zalani space. Excellent work, Captain, Ryan replied. How did the cargo hold up during the extended journey? No problems at all. The new preservation systems work perfectly. We delivered everything in perfect condition, and the Europa colonists were very happy with the food quality. Ryan marked another successful mission on his data pad. The council species had assumed humans would struggle to maintain supply lines without using established galactic trade routes. They were wrong about that, just like they had been wrong about everything else involving humanity. The economic impact on council worlds was becoming severe. The Trilaxian Trade Federation had built their entire crystal export business around human shipping companies. Trilaxian crystals were valuable but extremely fragile and required special handling during transport. Human freight pilots had developed the best techniques for moving the crystals safely across long distances. Trade Minister Valk of the Trilaxians stood before his government council explaining the crisis. Our crystal exports have dropped by 60% since the humans stopped providing shipping services. No other species has pilots skilled enough to transport our products without significant breakage. The Trilaxian president clicked his mandibles in distress. Can we not train our own pilots to match human capabilities? We have been trying for the past 4 months, Minister Valk replied. Our pilots break 15% of each shipment, while human pilots never broke more than 2%. The loss rates are destroying our profit margins. Similar problems were affecting every council species. The insectoid Vex swarm had depended on human-manufactured goods for their expansion colonies. Human factories produced electronics and machinery that was more reliable and efficient than anything the Vex could make themselves. Now the Vex expansion had stopped completely because they could not get replacement equipment. Queen Zix of the Vex swarm received reports from her colonial administrators about failing infrastructure. Your Majesty, the atmospheric processors on Colony 7 are breaking down. We need human replacement parts, or the entire settlement will become uninhabitable within months. Have we tried to contact human manufacturers directly? The Queen asked. Yes, Your Majesty. They return all our purchase orders unopened. Human companies will not sell anything to council species under any circumstances, President. Martha Collins sat in her office, reviewing classified project reports that showed how quickly human technology was advancing, without alien interference. Earth scientists were making breakthroughs in weapon systems, propulsion technology, and defensive equipment that surpassed anything the Council possessed. Dr. Kevin Stone knocked on her office door and entered carrying data tablets. Madam President, the latest results from Project Independence are very encouraging. Our new plasma weapons are 30% more powerful than the best Korthak military equipment. The shield generators we developed are completely immune to Zilani ice weapons. President Collins smiled as she read the technical specifications. How long until we can outfit the entire fleet with these upgrades? Production facilities on Luna and Titan are working at maximum capacity. We can upgrade every human warship within 8 months. After that, we will begin installing the new systems on colonial defense stations. The President activated her secure communication system to speak with Admiral Carter, who was commanding fleet operations. Admiral, how are our defensive preparations proceeding? Better than expected, Madam President. The new ship designs are superior to anything in Council space. If any alien species decides to test our resolve, they will discover that humanity is no longer the weak newcomer they remember. Meanwhile, on Kepler Station, the Council was discovering that human-designed components were failing throughout their infrastructure. 20 years of technological cooperation had left alien civilizations dependent on human engineering in ways they had never realized. The Ethereal Collective's mining operations on 3 different worlds shut down. When their atmospheric processors stopped working, the machines had been built using human technology that the Ethereals could not repair or replace. Without these processors, the mining colonies became uninhabitable and had to be evacuated. Chief Engineer Kira of the Collective tried desperately to contact human technical support teams. We are willing to pay any price for emergency repair services. Our people will die if these systems are not restored immediately. The response came back within hours, but it was not what Kira had hoped to hear. Human technical support is no longer available to Council species. All service contracts have been terminated permanently. Senator Bill Hayes sat in his office on Earth reading reports about alien attempts to communicate with humanity. Every day brought new messages from Council species offering trade deals, technology exchanges, and diplomatic compromises. Every message received the same response, which was no response at all. His assistant Jenny brought him another stack of communication requests. Senator, the Aquarian Science Collective is offering to share their underwater city technology in exchange for renewed cooperation. The Sylvan Collective wants to trade advanced agricultural techniques for access to human research data. Senator Hayes looked at the offers without interest. File them with all the others. Earth policy remains unchanged. We have nothing to discuss with species who voted to disarm our colonies and control our expansion. But Senator, some of these offers are quite generous. The aliens seem genuinely sorry about what happened. They are not sorry about treating humanity badly, Hayes replied. They are sorry about losing access to human technology and trade networks. If they had succeeded in disarming us, they would still be celebrating their victory. The economic crisis in Council space was spreading to civilian populations who began demanding their governments fix the situation. On several worlds, protests erupted as shortages of human-supplied goods affected daily life. The Trilaxian crystal miners went on strike when their equipment broke down without human replacement parts. Vex colonial families faced starvation when food shipments from human agricultural worlds stopped completely. Chancellor Zorvac called another emergency council session as the crisis deepened. The human withdrawal is causing more damage than we anticipated. Perhaps we should consider reopening diplomatic channels. General Vex slammed his clawed hand on the table. We cannot show weakness by crawling back to the humans. They will return when they realize they need us more than we need them. But the evidence showed exactly the opposite was happening. Human civilization was thriving in isolation, while Council worlds struggled with shortages and equipment failures. The species that had voted to control humanity were discovering they had controlled nothing except their own access to human cooperation. Dr. Allen Ross worked in his new laboratory on Earth, developing medical technologies that had previously been shared with alien species. The research was advancing rapidly, without the need to consider alien biology or political concerns. Human medicine was becoming the most advanced in the galaxy. President Collins received daily reports showing that every human colony was not just surviving, but prospering. The withdrawal from Council space had forced humanity to become truly independent, and the results exceeded all expectations. Earth no longer needed permission from anyone to grow and expand. The Council had pushed too far, and now they were learning what it meant to live in a galaxy where humanity refused to acknowledge their existence. A full year had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the Council chambers, and the Galactic Council was facing the worst crisis in their long history. Chancellor Zorvac stood before an emergency assembly of all member species as reports flooded in about economic collapse and social unrest across council space. The Trilaxian Trade Federation reported that 7 of their major crystal mining operations had shut down completely. Without human shipping networks, their products could not reach buyers efficiently, and the loss rates from other carriers made trade unprofitable. Unemployment on Trilaxian worlds had reached 30%, and riots were breaking out in major cities. Representative Clax spoke with a trembling voice. "Chancellor, our people are demanding action. They blame the government for destroying relations with humanity. 3 colonial governors have been removed from office by angry citizens who want the humans to return. The Vex swarm was experiencing similar problems, but their situation was even more desperate. Queen Zix had sent urgent messages explaining that 12 of their expansion colonies faced complete abandonment. Without human manufactured equipment, the settlements could not maintain basic life support systems. General Vex tried to maintain his proud stance, but even he could not hide the strain. Our military expansion has stopped entirely. The fuel cells that power our warships were manufactured by human companies. Our reserves will last only 6 more months before the fleet becomes inoperable." The Ethereal Collective reported that their advanced mining operations had ceased on 8 different worlds. The atmospheric processors that made hostile planets habitable had been designed by human engineers. When the machines failed, the Collective could not repair them, and entire colonies had to be evacuated, with massive financial losses. Chancellor Zorvac felt the weight of failure pressing down on him like a crushing force. The Council had been so confident that humanity would beg to return within weeks. Instead, the humans had become completely self-sufficient, while Council civilization crumbled without their participation. "We must consider sending a formal apology to Earth," the Chancellor announced. "Perhaps if we acknowledge our error, they will agree to resume limited cooperation." For the first time in Council history, the proud alien species voted unanimously to apologize to another race and request their return. The message was crafted carefully with admissions of mistake and offers of compromise positions on the issues that had caused the break. Captain Greg Turner commanded the Deep Space monitoring station that tracked all communications entering human space. His job was to intercept and analyze any messages from Council species before they reached Earth. The formal apology from Chancellor Zorvac arrived through 12 different transmission channels to ensure delivery. Greg read the message carefully and noted the desperate tone that came through even the formal diplomatic language. The Council was offering to reduce the weapons inspection requirements and allow limited human expansion in exchange for renewed cooperation. They were trying to negotiate from a position of weakness. He forwarded the message to Earth Command with a standard intelligence report. The response came back within hours and contained only 4 words that Greg had expected. "Acknowledge receipt." No reply. The Council waited 3 weeks for some kind of response from humanity. When no answer came, they began sending increasingly desperate messages through every possible channel. They contacted human colonies directly instead of going through Earth. They sent messages to individual human leaders and scientists. They even tried broadcasting on open frequencies that anyone could receive. Every message was acknowledged, but none received replies. Humanity had perfected the art of complete indifference to alien concerns. Dr. Kevin Stone worked in his laboratory on Earth while monitoring news feeds from Council space. The alien populations were becoming increasingly angry with their governments over the human situation. On 6 different worlds, protests had turned violent as citizens demanded their leaders find a solution to the economic crisis. The Trilaxian president had been forced to resign after riots destroyed government buildings. The new leadership immediately sent envoys toward human space, hoping to negotiate directly with colonial administrators. Their ships were turned away at the border by human patrol vessels. Captain Holly Baker commanded one of the patrol ships that enforced the human space closure. Her orders were clear about how to handle alien diplomatic vessels. Escort them politely but firmly back to the border. Make no threatening moves but allow no entry into human territory. A Zalani diplomatic ship approached her patrol area, carrying Chancellor Zorvac himself, who had come personally to plead for negotiations. Holly established communication with the alien vessel as it approached the border beacon that marked human space. "This is Captain Baker of the Human Defense Force. You are approaching restricted space. Please alter course immediately. Chancellor Zorvak's voice came through the communication system with obvious strain. Captain, this is Chancellor Zorvak of the Galactic Council. I request permission to enter human space for urgent diplomatic discussions. Permission denied. Human space is closed to all council traffic. This is your final warning before we escort you back to the boundary. Captain, please understand that billions of lives are at stake. The economic crisis is causing suffering across many worlds. Surely humanity does not want innocent civilians to pay for political disagreements. Holly felt no sympathy for the alien leader. The council should have considered civilian consequences before voting to disarm human colonies. Human space remains closed to all council vessels. The Chancellor's ship turned away from the border after Holly's patrol vessels moved into escort formation. The proud alien leader who had once demanded human submission was now begging for human attention and being ignored completely. Similar scenes played out across the border between human and council space. Desperate alien delegations arrived daily with gifts and offers of massive trade concessions. The Vex Swarm proposed military alliances and shared technology. The Trilaxians offered exclusive mining rights on their richest crystal worlds. The Ethereal Collective shared meditation techniques that had been secret for centuries. All gifts and offers were returned unopened to the senders. Human border guards treated the alien delegates with professional courtesy, but absolute refusal to engage in any substantive communication. President Collins received reports about the alien desperation with satisfaction rather than sympathy. They are offering us everything they refused to give when they thought they held the superior position. The council members are learning what it means to need something they cannot simply take. Admiral Carter provided military updates that showed how much stronger humanity had become during the year of isolation. Our new weapon systems are generations ahead of anything council species possess. The defensive networks around our colonies could repel attacks from the entire Korthak fleet. Senator Hayes monitored the political situation in council space where governments were falling as populations blamed their leaders for the crisis. 3 species have withdrawn from the council entirely following our example. The organization that once claimed to represent galactic civilization is collapsing. The breaking point came when the Aquarian Science Collective announced they were abandoning their homeworld because their underwater cities could no longer function without human-designed pressure systems. The evacuation of an entire species made headlines across the galaxy and sparked massive protests on every council world. Desperate crowds gathered outside government buildings demanding immediate action to restore relations with humanity. The protests turned violent on several worlds as security forces struggled to maintain order. The alien civilians wanted their leaders to do whatever was necessary to bring the humans back. But humanity was no longer listening to anything the council had to say. The species that had tried to force human submission through votes and ultimatums were learning that some decisions cannot be reversed. The council had pushed too far and now they faced a future where humanity would never need to acknowledge their existence. Again, the tables had turned completely, and the hunters had become the hunted in a galaxy where human indifference was more powerful than any weapon the aliens possessed. 2 years after humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely. Admiral Danny Ross stood on the bridge of the newest human battleship, watching construction crews finish the final defensive platform around the Mars colony. The human defense fleet now contained more advanced warships than any 3 council species combined. The new vessels used technology that had been developed in complete isolation from alien influence. Human engineers had solved problems that council scientists had struggled with for centuries. The plasma cannons could punch through any known shield system, and the defensive barriers could absorb energy weapons that would destroy entire alien fleets. Admiral Ross received a report from Captain Steve, who commanded the border patrol near former council space. Admiral, we detected 3 Korthak raiders attempting to test our defenses near the Jupiter mining station. They moved against the station but retreated immediately when our patrol ships appeared. What happened when they saw our ships? Admiral Ross asked. They ran, Admiral. Their sensors must have detected our weapon signatures because they jumped to hyperspace within seconds. The raiders never even tried to engage our forces. Admiral Ross was not surprised by this news. Word had spread through the criminal underworld that attacking human targets was now suicidal. The pirates and raiders who had once threatened human colonies now avoided human space entirely. They had learned that humanity no longer tolerated any threats to their people. 3 months earlier, a major pirate fleet had attempted to raid the agricultural colony on Ceres. The attack had been a complete disaster for the raiders. Human defense ships had destroyed the entire pirate force without taking any damage themselves. The battle lasted only 17 minutes and no pirates survived to tell others what human weapons could do. President Collins sat in her office reading reports about the continued collapse of Council civilization. 3 more species had formally withdrawn from the organization in the past 6 months. The Trilaxian Trade Federation had dissolved completely as their economy collapsed without human shipping networks. The Vex Swarm had abandoned 12 colonial worlds because they could not maintain the equipment needed for survival. Dr. Kevin Stone knocked on her door and entered carrying the latest intelligence reports from former Council space. Madam President, the situation in alien territory continues to deteriorate. The Ethereal Collective has lost control of their mining empire, and their population is scattered across refugee camps on different worlds. What about the species that started this mess? President Collins asked. How are the Zilani and Korthak handling their problems? The Zilani government fell last month after massive riots in their capital city. The new leadership has been sending daily messages requesting emergency talks with Earth. The Korthak military is planning something desperate according to our intelligence sources, President. Collins read the detailed reports about alien desperation and felt no sympathy for their suffering. These were the same species that had voted to disarm human colonies and control human expansion. They had believed humanity would submit to their demands and accept second-class status in galactic civilization. The door to her office opened, and Admiral Carter entered with an urgent expression. Madam President, we have a significant development. Chancellor Zorvak himself is requesting permission to travel to Earth for personal negotiations. He wants to meet with you directly. After 2 years of silence, he thinks I will see him? President Collins asked. He claims to have complete authority from the remaining council members to negotiate any terms necessary for renewed relations. Our intelligence suggests the council is facing total collapse within months. President Collins considered the request for several moments. The council had pushed humanity too far, and now they were facing the consequences of their arrogance. Perhaps it was time to let them know exactly where they stood in the new galactic order. Grant him permission to come to Earth, but make it clear this is not a negotiation. He can hear our position, but we are not interested in his offers or compromises. Chancellor Zorvak arrived at Earth 3 days later, aboard a small diplomatic vessel that looked pathetic compared to the massive human warships that escorted it to the planet. The alien leader who had once demanded human submission now came as a beggar hoping for mercy from the species he had tried to control. The meeting took place in a sterile conference room in Geneva with President Collins flanked by Admiral Carter and Senator Hayes. The room was deliberately chosen to be as unwelcoming as possible, with plain walls and uncomfortable furniture. No refreshments were offered, and no diplomatic courtesies were extended. Chancellor Zorvak entered the room looking much older than he had 2 years earlier. The stress of watching his civilization collapse had aged him badly. His blue skin had a gray tint and ice crystals formed continuously around his breathing apparatus, showing his extreme anxiety. President Collins, I come before you with complete humility to acknowledge the terrible mistake the Council made. We ask for your forgiveness and your return to the galactic community. The Council is prepared to offer any terms you require. President Collins looked at the alien leader with cold eyes that showed no emotion. Chancellor Zorvak, you seem to be confused about why you are here. This is not a negotiation, and I am not interested in Council offers. The Chancellor's voice became desperate. Please understand that billions of innocent lives are suffering because of our error. Surely humanity does not want to see entire civilizations collapse over political disagreements? The Council had the opportunity to treat humanity as equals. President Collins replied. Instead, you chose to vote for weapons inspections of our colonies and restrictions on our expansion. You made it clear that you viewed humans as subjects who needed your permission to defend themselves. Senator Hayes leaned forward with a harsh expression. You demanded that we submit to alien authority and accept limits on our growth. Now you come here asking for mercy when your own civilization is failing. Chancellor Zorvac tried again with increasing desperation. We propose the complete dissolution of all restrictions on human activities. We offer formal recognition of human sovereignty over all your territories. We can provide massive reparations for the economic damages caused by our actions. President Collins stood up from her chair, signaling that the meeting was ending. Chancellor, those terms might have been acceptable 2 years ago when you first realized your mistake. Today they are completely inadequate. What do you want from us? The Chancellor asked with defeat in his voice. We want nothing from you, President Collins answered. That is the point you fail to understand. Humanity no longer requires Council approval for anything we do. We will continue to exist and expand and develop exactly as we choose. The Council can adapt to this reality or continue to struggle without us. The Chancellor stood slowly with the weight of complete failure on his shoulders. Are you saying there is no possibility of renewed cooperation between our peoples? The Council pushed too far, Chancellor. You cannot threaten someone into submission and then expect them to forgive you when the threats fail. Humanity has learned to exist without alien interference, and we prefer it that way. Admiral Carter escorted the alien leader from the room as President Collins watched through the window. The small diplomatic ship departed Earth under heavy escort and disappeared into hyperspace, carrying news of humanity's final rejection. Dr. Stone entered the conference room after the aliens had left. Madam President, do you think they will try something desperate like a military attack? Let them try, President Collins replied. Our defense systems are designed to handle any threat the Council species can mount. They would only succeed in proving that humanity was right to abandon them completely. Word of the failed negotiations spread quickly through both human and alien space. On Earth, the news was celebrated as final proof that humanity no longer needed to bow to alien demands. In Council territory, the news sparked final collapse as the last remaining governments fell to angry populations demanding new leadership. Within 6 months, the Galactic Council ceased to exist as an organization. The species that had once ruled the galaxy found themselves struggling for survival in a universe where humanity held all the advantages. They had learned too late that some actions cannot be undone and some words cannot be taken back. Humanity continued to expand and prosper in their self-sufficient civilization while the former Council members faced an uncertain future. The species that had pushed too far discovered that humans would never need to talk to them again.